we just walked off stage from Catalina. Concert on the beach. Something we've been planning for months.
Birthday bash for Sam. Couldn't do it in Cabo this year because of COVID. So I'm doing it here for everyone.
It was great after not seeing these guys and playing together for 8 months.
7, 8 months.
But the craziest part of the whole thing was that here we are. The circle where we play Montrose, Chickenfoot, early Sammy. We play Van Halen. We play Led Zeppelin, right? And after the unfortunate thing that happened with Eddie Van Halen yesterday, which was, for Mike and I, was just like getting hit by a freaking Mack truck. Ooh, kind of took the wind out of the sails for this sailing.
It makes it, I mean, for being such a occasion that we wanted to promote here, it made it very bittersweet.
I just want to say that I'm kind of devastated. We get to do it again tomorrow. I tell you, a Van Halen song never felt so hard to sing and play in my life.
It was hard.
It was.
It's very surreal right now, and it hasn't sunk in yet.
Well, what I felt playing, especially a song like Right Now, that's so timeless, that I felt, wow, thank God for this. You know what I mean? It's like we'll never play with Eddie again, but thank God for this.
We have the music.
The music will live forever,
and if nothing else,
I'll sing it as long as I live.
We love you, Eddie.
I think crazy things happen. Something very unexpected, expected but unexpected happened yesterday. And so if you don't mind, y'all out there, without saying too much, before this next song, I'd just like to have a moment of silence.
What is up, guys? Mike Berlinski here with the Metal Webzine. Welcome to episode 35 of All the Metal Podcast. We are getting back together with our friend Greg DiPasquale under some pretty unfortunate circumstances. Tonight we're going to be doing an In Memoriam episode for Eddie Van Halen. That opening clip was from Sammy Hagar's YouTube channel. And like Sammy said, we are going to have a brief moment of silence and then give Greg a call and go right into the discussion. Thanks for tuning in.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greg. Welcome back.
It's good to be back, albeit under unfortunate circumstances.
That's exactly what I said in my intro, so we're on the same page here.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you have anything you wanted to start off with, or did you just want to jump right in?
I don't think, really, what else? It's really tough to put it into terms or whatever in something that's totally unique. It's probably all been said and all been felt by anyone else.
Right.
A giant has left us, and that's not like we weren't already, but we're just going to spend the rest of our days playing it out in his shadow.
That's right. Yeah. Everybody started playing in his shadow, and that's how we'll play out in our own individual lives.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm assuming you're ready.
I am.
Okay, cool. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard did you feel this loss? Where were you when you heard the news, and how did you find out?
This is not really, it's kind of alien territory for me, I guess. I've never really, celebrity deaths or, not even necessarily celebrity deaths, because, a lot of the musicians that, specifically we look up to, in the underground, a lot of them aren't celebrity per se, but they're still giants and heroes nonetheless.
Yeah, he was your hero,
Although,
right?
Yeah, but that being said, I mean, the only other times I was ever really bummed out, like, oh shit, like, you know, obviously I'm never happy, you know. When anyone who is in, you know, I don't know, it's never good. It's never good. But you know, when I would say, you know, prior to this, you know, when Lemmy died or when Ronnie James Dio passed, you know, I mean, it was kind of like I remember it was very like it was just like, fuck. It was like, damn it, you know? And,
Right.
it was just kind of like a general, that sucks, you know? Those are really the only two times I could think of prior to this where I ever really, you know, I was like, shit.
Right. But this was totally different.
The total bum out. This was something entirely different for me.
Yep.
It was, you know, it's the kind of thing that I guess would only happen for someone of this magnitude or someone of this importance. And it's not to diminish the importance of people like Ronnie James Dio or Lemmy or anyone else, you know.
Right, but it's all about who resonated with you more.
Anyone that I looked up to. It's not to diminish or deplete their impact, because I'm sure there was other people in this world who, you know, probably looked up to Lemmy or Dio like I did Eddie Van Halen. And, you know, maybe it did hit them as hard as this hit me, but this was definitely a 10, you know?
Oh, of course.
It was,
yeah.
This was the first time where I can honestly say, like, I was like, you know, I was upset, you know, it wasn't just a little bummed out, it was just like, it shouldn't have been shocking, because, you know, there've been rumors about his health and his condition,
right,
you know, for quite some time.
Yeah.
You know, but the family was very protective, and he was always insulated in this bubble, and it was just hearsay, and you would hear conflicting reports, and so there's just this aura, this mystery around Eddie Van Halen, and you never really knew what his status was. And so I guess it was, you know, if you can get past the initial, you know, shock of it all or whatever, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you know, he had been sick, he had health problems for quite some time, but it's just like the way it just happened out of nowhere. Like, you knew, and again, I'm going to, I guess, probably keep referring back to these other examples just because they were really the only two examples I have to kind of base this off of, but you knew Ronnie Dio was sick,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
You knew that for a fact. I mean, he stayed in the public eye, you know? You knew Lemmy was sick. He stayed in the public eye, you know? You could kind of watch that happening, you know? And this just happened out of nowhere, and I was, it was kind of, it was like in the middle of work.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just saw it, you know, on Twitter or whatever, and you know, it was kind of took the wind out of my sails. Like, I really couldn't.
Yep.
You know, it was towards the end of the day, and I was, you know, just kind of on a break and just, you know, killing time, and I saw the post from you know, Wolfgang Van Halen on Twitter, and it was just kind of like,
yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, just took the wind out of me. I really didn't fucking feel like doing anything, you know, after that. It was really tough to concentrate, you know, it was a different level of bummed out.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Sammy Hagar said that it was expected and unexpected. So, like, it's natural, if you knew what was going on, it was natural to feel both at the same time.
Right, yeah, I believe it, yeah.
So, I think the answer is obvious, but I would love to hear it in your own words. Like, are you the guitar player or even the man you are today without Eddie Van Halen?
I mean, we kind of touched on that briefly
Yeah.
in the Van Halen episode, but instead of speculating or
Sure.
applying, or anything like that, I will just say that a huge part of the path I took in life and the relationships that I've fostered with people, a lot of the people, you could argue that my life without Eddie Van Halen is probably wildly different,
Yeah, of
my
course.
life was one thing before I heard Van Halen 1. And then when I heard Van Halen 1, all of a sudden this off-ramp appeared.
Sure.
And I had no idea where it was going to or what it entailed or what was going to be on that ramp. But it was, I don't know, the neon lights on it or whatever was pointing in that direction was interesting enough for me to take that. And,
Yep.
consequently, I could say that a vast majority of the people that I've, that weren't like family or whatever, a vast majority of the people that I became friends with, after, 1993, or, a lot of it is music related. A lot of people that I've met, and stayed associated with after 1993 is largely because of that moment.
Sure. And how much of your life was shaped by those
anyone
people?
I met as a result of, again, whether how directly or indirectly, it might take a few steps to connect the two, but arguably you could say anyone I met as a result of playing in bands, you can connect that directly to Eddie Van Halen.
Yep.
He gave me that push to want to pursue that path in life. And not only just like the path of a musician, but obviously, when you pursue the goal of being a musician or you go after that life,
Yeah.
it's a ripple effect. It affects
Yep.
really everything that happens afterwards and around it. And,
Right. Every single life affects countless
you could argue
others.
that the plate, just every people I've met, the path I took in life, outside of music, jobs I've had to work because of, being in bands or how appropriate they were or lenient to being in a band, to the schedule of that.
Right. How am I going to fund this habit? Right.
Yeah, no, and it's like, and like, obviously, just, I could connect every facet of my life, almost, people I knew back then to people I know today. I keep, it's like a Kevin Bacon thing.
Yep.
I could connect a lot of people I met since Van Halen 1. I could make a case that Van Halen 1 kind of is related to that.
Right.
Sounds weird.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't sound weird. It really doesn't sound weird.
I can make a connection.
Right.
It might take a few steps. It might be 6 degrees, but I could get there.
I was going to bring this up. I don't think you and I would have met had it not been for Eddie Van Halen.
I can't.
It's a tough
again,
call,
but I kind of went this route on the last episode too. It's like
you don't know, but
I'll repeat myself. I'll say you never want to say never,
right?
But I can say I don't know.
Sure.
I can't say that I.
Sure, it begs the question.
And I think that really says it all. The fact that I can't say I would have met you. I mean, it's you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You never say never, but I don't know.
You also don't know, right?
It's tough for me to imagine. It's tough for me to imagine giving you, I guess giving you a adverse response to that question. I don't know that I can. I can't conclusively say that. It's very possible. I would say that if it's not 100% possible, I will say it's highly likely we probably don't meet.
Right.
Not for Van Halen.
Absolutely.
Specifically.
I could say that about a lot of people. I have that belief.
Can't say I never would have, but I could say it's very, very likely.
Yep. What was the first... we touched on this before, just, again, like, briefly, like, what I'm trying to do is, like, I'm trying to get into, like, those important little things about Van Halen that we touched on in the previous episode, but to, like, flesh those answers out more, because now there's a reason to. So, like, what was the first aspect of Eddie Van Halen's playing that drew you into his music?
Well, I mean, it really wasn't, honestly, the first record I got from them was For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, and at that point, I just knew, at that age, everyone's great, you know?
Oh, I know what you mean. You're impressionable, it's all new to you.
You're a kid, and so it's almost like, you just assume, oh, these guys are in a popular band, they make records, they must be good.
Yeah.
But honestly, it wasn't like, I had kind of started to, read music magazines, and obviously everyone always talked about how great he was, but I just got For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, and, they had great songs, and, the guitar playing was obviously cool, but at that point, he was kind of, I would say it's probably the most aggressive album of the Van Hagar era, but at that point they were very much, I don't want to say his guitar playing was less explosive, but he was kind of, Van Halen was more about the complete picture at that point, more about the total song. And it's, honestly, they kind of always were about the total song. But, obviously Eddie had matured a little bit, and he wasn't looking to be as explosive or outlandish or over the top with his approach anymore. It was definitely, it was rocking, but it was definitely less aggressive.
It was more reined in a little bit more.
Yeah, more reined in, more we'll say more refined.
Yes.
Yes. And it wasn't, and I enjoyed that record, but it wasn't until Van Halen won, and I heard the fucking ridiculousness that is that finger tapping run, Interruption, and that's obviously not a unique thing to me. Millions of people around the world heard that same thing, and millions of other people in this world had their fucking brains blown out the back of their head.
Yep.
It was just like, it was a mind liquefier. It was just, like a lot of other people, never heard anything like that until I heard that.
Sure.
That was the thing that drew me in, because it was like, well, this guy is clearly, it was weird because I took in so much music retroactively. I evolved in a manner that was probably more in line with someone who was like 10 years older than me.
Right.
So like, I started at your Van Halens and your Def Leppards, and I started with, you could say hard rock or light metal, you know what I'm saying? Like, I started with that and evolved, from that, which is how anyone who would have been 10 years old when Van Halen came out probably would have taken it in as well too. So I grew up, in that way, and so that guitar playing that I heard on Van Halen 1, granted, this is 1993, so, we had already had Yngwie and Steve Vai and, Satriani and Jason Becker and, Paul Gilbert and, just so on and so forth. All those, amazing sicko guitarists that just kept pushing it. But I mean, it was all unknown territory. I never heard any of that shit yet. So Van Halen was, ground zero, and it was just like, this is fucking bonkers. I mean, it's always going to be bonkers. There's still things he did in a manner that even those other guys that came after him that might have been maybe more technically explosive or over the top, that they still didn't have the feel
Right.
that he did. And he still did it in a way that's still super fucking crazy and fucked up sounding to this day, and it probably always will be.
Right.
So that was really what drew me in. That's really what sunk me in, is not only did they have great songs, but he had this knack for writing great songs and having, just over the top, end of the world guitar playing with it.
Right. Right.
That was really the big hook for sure, the guitar playing.
Right. Right.
Because you know how it is. You get a record by a band.
Yeah.
And you hear it, and some bands, they only have one record or a couple records that you dig. Like obviously I know you love In Flames, but I only really like a couple records. I only really like Oracle and Jester Race. And that's really it. Nothing else that they've done besides that really kind of.
Oh yeah, I'm 90s only. Well, briefly.
But nothing else that they've really done has ever really grabbed me. And so you have that first record I got from Van Halen, and you think, okay, this is cool, and you try another one, and then it's like, oh well, this one is what really sealed it was that I thought Van Halen 1 was even better.
Yeah, of course. And then you can work the discography forward from there, yeah.
And the first record they did I like even more. Well, let's cover the ground in between now.
Yeah, I mean, you could clone, like someone could clone Eddie Van Halen, but even that clone would not play those solos and those riffs the exact same way as the original. So, I don't know. It's just... Yeah,
I've never heard anyone.
It's still going to be mind-boggling to people years from now.
I've never heard anyone. I've heard people take. I don't know. Everyone's always tried to. I don't know. I've never heard anyone sound exactly like him. Obviously people were able to cop the tapping thing and do stuff like that, but there was never ever someone I heard that was just like, that went for that vibe, and it sounded like a mirror image. It was always something different, no matter what happened or what he did.
Because that was all personality.
That was different from everyone
There
else.
was so much personality in the playing that made it unique for all time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so of all of Eddie Van Halen's guitars, which was your favorite make, model, paint job?
My favorite one is always, it's going to be the Frankenstrat. It's the one that he had on the first record. It was initially black and white, but then by the time they had gotten to, I think it was Women and Children First, or I think by Van Halen 2, or maybe, I don't know, it was either around Van Halen 2 or Women and Children First, he had already, fucked it up and painted it the classic red, white, and black.
Yep.
And had a Floyd Rose trem system put on, which was state of the art, basically brand new at that time. And he put in a dummy neck pickup, just to kind of fuck people.
Sure.
Fuck people a little bit.
Sure. He's only using one pickup the whole time, but
yeah. He was only using the bridge pickup, and honestly, that's gonna be my favorite one because it just sounds so gnarly and it looks even more gnarly. And I always. That was always one of my favorite things about him, is that you had all these people that were going around, with like their $5,000 Les Pauls or whatever the fuck it is that they're playing. And obviously Les Pauls are great; they're legendary guitars for a reason. They sound awesome. But then you have this fucking genius, this sicko who is just redefining the entire instrument, playing this absolutely beat the fuck up $150 homemade guitar that sounded insane compared to everyone else, and it sounded better than everyone else. And he was playing through fucking, modded amplifier. Like, he was a guy that, I mean, that's common knowledge at this point, but he was constantly fucking up guitars, by trying to make them more to his liking, both in feel and tone and look. I mean, he was always after something that he couldn't. He was always after something that he couldn't buy in a store.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And so that, to me, that says, he was innovative on so many levels. But that initial black and white guitar that ended up becoming the first red, white, and black one, that's going to be my favorite forever.
Yeah.
It just looks destroyed, but it sounds like
it's immaculate. Right, yeah, sure.
I mean, obviously a lot of the tone was, I mean, if you hand me that guitar, it'll have the great tone, but it's not gonna give me Eddie's hand.
Sure, a lot of tonality comes from your fingers, your touch, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the tonality comes from the hands, and I think it was the George Lynch I heard say one time, the old head, hands, and heart. I think that's where tone comes from.
Yep, sure. Yeah, that's great. So we talked about this a few days ago. Construct your own Eddie Van Halen greatest hits album based on your personal favorites.
Yeah, let me kind of had something.
Yes. I was hoping you would,
yeah.
I love
really
these.
You wanted, like, I don't know, it was tough. I really didn't want to include his instrumental pieces, because they're not so much songs, they're more like soundscapes.
Yeah.
And expressive. And I think that while tracks like Eruption and Spanish Fly and, Cathedral, Little Guitars, and so on and so forth, things like that, well, ultimately they're things that put him on the map. I don't think that they're the things that I would want to point to as his songs per se, because I think that it puts him in a category that I think is kind of unjust for someone of that caliber. And then there's nothing wrong with instrumental guitar, and there's nothing wrong, certainly, obviously, Eruption changed my life, but, like, he was, shredder and, virtuoso and innovator and all that stuff, but he was really, I mean, he had a knack for riffs.
Yes.
He had riffs, and he had structure, and he knew how to write songs. I mean, I would never ever want to have him just be looked at as a guy like
who could shred, because he was so much more than a guy who could shred.
He was beyond that. Like, I mean, I would never, like, I'm trying to think of, like, I mean, it's not to disparage those guys, but when you think of instrumental guitar, you think about the Shrapnel Records stuff that was coming out in the late 80s, your Jason Becker, your Marty Friedman, Paul Gilbert, stuff that we always, Tony McAlpine, all that stuff. All those guys are great players, but I just don't think that they really have anything in common with Van Halen, except for they were all excellent guitarists, and they, kind of maybe had some of his technique down. But I would never want to put his instrumental soundscapes as his best examples of his guitar playing, because that's just him being expressive. I think the art that he had was definitely more in his ability to craft just some of the most beautiful and memorable music I've ever heard in my entire life.
Sure. Yep.
And so it, that said, it's really tough to, I know you said something like 10 or 15 songs, and I don't really know.
Well, it's whatever you want it to be. It's whatever you want.
All right, I'll give you. I didn't put down anything concrete just because I knew by the time I got to this point,
You would change your mind.
I would have already rethought it. But I do have a list kind of prepared of a bunch of songs, and I guess I'll just I initially had the list with including stuff like Eruption and Little Guitars. So I guess I'll take those out and I'll just give you what I have.
Awesome.
Let's see here. All right, so we'll go with Unchained, Chinatown, Dance the Night Away, I'm the One, Push Comes to Shove, which probably has my favorite Van Halen guitar solo in it. Big Bad Bill of Sweet William Now, which I know is a cover song, but it's a really cool tune, and it actually has the Van Halen brothers' father playing clarinet on it.
Oh,
So
wow.
I thought that's
okay.
pretty neat. Atomic Punk, Ice Cream Man. I know, again, it's another cover, and I'm kind of reticent to put in the covers, but the way they did their covers I thought were really cool.
Yeah, that's totally
And
different, right.
They kind of made them their own songs.
Definitely made them their own songs.
You
Yep,
know.
totally fair.
Yeah. Beautiful Girls, And the Cradle Will Rock, As Is, the song Little Guitars, Me Wise Magic, Light Up the Sky, In a Simple Rhyme, Hot for Teacher, Running with the Devil, Mean Street, Loss of Control, and you got to put Jump in there.
Sure.
Everybody Wants Some, Panama, One Foot Out the Door, and for the basically all that stuff is DLR era stuff. Both his initial run with the band, and then there's some stuff on the last record as well too. But
When he came back, yeah.
I think their last record is awesome. But as far as Sammy stuff is concerned, I'd have to include. It's really not a lot of Sammy stuff. But, I definitely would put Get Up on there. When It's Love. Pound Cake. Judgment Day. And Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, and Feelin'. And I didn't even really, you gotta throw something, you gotta have something from every record on there. So I guess for the Van Gary album, I really like the single off of that, Without You. That was kind of classic Van Halen, so
yeah.
We'll go with that. I mean, I definitely went way off the rails. Definitely more than 10 or 15 songs.
No, that was a tremendous list. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that was great. That's great. I mean, I guess with this next one, kind of think about stuff that you've written on guitar. Like, talk about one aspect of your own guitar playing that you can directly trace back to Eddie Van Halen.
Let me think here. Let me just think of my personal discography, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, this might turn into a Herod question.
Honestly, my era of Herod was I was still growing as a guitarist, and I grew leaps and bounds because of being in that band. Just because, playing guitar with Jesse is really, really challenging.
It's a new level,
So
for sure.
If there was any Van Halen moments from my time in Herod, they were definitely all Jesse's.
Sure.
I would say anytime I've done something that people have construed as Van Halen-ish, I would say my guitar solo in the Sons of Azrael song, End of the Rope.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
I do a tap run in that solo, and I remember Tony Lorenzo's stepfather, Edwin, telling me that he thought it sounded Eddie Van Halen-ish, which is, that just about made my millennium.
Sure, somebody tells you that, of course.
The fact that I could do anything even remotely Van Halen-ish, was definitely made me very happy.
That's great.
I would say the solo I did on the Fatal Curse album
Yeah, that's right. That would totally apply. Yeah.
I kind of do. I don't really know what the actual name of it is.
The technique?
But I don't know what exactly it is, if there is even a term for it. But a long, long time ago, I started calling it the harmonic missile. Just because it sounds like just like a stream of harmonics, shooting across the sky.
Sure. Yep, I know what you mean.
It's basically if you listen to the song, actually, if I think about it now, like I really, in that solo in Eyes of the Demon, I really just, I busted out the Van Halen bag of tricks. I do a harmonic missile, there's tapping in it, I really just kind of,
Yeah, you gunned it. Very cool.
I just, put pedal to the floor on my Eddie tricks there, but yeah, so I would say those are probably the most Van Halen-ish moments I've ever, had on record.
That's awesome. That's great. Kick ass.
Two wildly different bands, too.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, completely. But that's great. Technique is technique, for sure, for leads.
It just goes to show that his technique is...
You can apply it to so much. Yeah.
It could go across, the board and be utilized in so many different ways and so many different styles. It's awesome.
Right. What's your favorite Eddie Van Halen quote?
Paraphrasing, not really sure the exact verbiage, but I believe it was something like along the lines of, forget the rules. If it sounds right, it is.
Yeah. Good point there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll stick. Name another band you got into because of Eddie Van Halen.
I could say every band after Van Halen.
Every band after Van Halen you got into because of Van Halen? Okay.
If you break it down, yeah, I'm not wrong.
Sure.
That gave me a thirst and a hunger for more music.
Right. Yeah,
So,
very cool.
Or do you mean specifically he mentioned someone?
Well, yeah, kinda. That's kinda what I mean. It's more or less like Van Halen stuck out most in your mind when you heard another band of the like and you liked that project because of the similarities, maybe?
honestly, I don't really think there's any other band I listen to that sounds like Van Halen.
Right. What were you listening to before Van Halen? Before you ever heard Van Halen, what were you listening to? Do you remember?
Yeah, just whatever was on the radio.
Just whatever was on the radio, yeah.
If I was driving around with my mom, it was probably, I don't know, like some shitty soft rock station, and
right.
or Kiss 98.5. And if I was driving around with my dad, it was probably 97 Rock or something like that. So you're kind of partial to whatever's on the radio, whatever's on MTV,
right.
whatever's on VH1 at the time. I remember specifically, music was very peripheral for me prior to my interest in Van Halen and subsequently, buying my own records and stuff. Music was just kind of like the wallpaper. It was just there. It was just a part of everything, but it was always around to a degree, but it was not anything that I really paid, attention to.
Right.
Again, it was there peripherally.
Sure. Sure.
But I don't. Van Halen, Eddie, he didn't really. I remember seeing this a bunch of times, and I always thought it was kind of funny, and it just goes to show like how he didn't really. He never really talked about a lot of other contemporaries or other bands that were would have been peers. I never really heard him talk much about other bands. Once the conversation got beyond, well, what were you inspired by, or what did you listen to when you were coming up, or what did you listen to when you were a kid?
Sure.
I remember reading an interview when I first got into the band. It was probably from 93 or 94, and I think they were asking him about, bands or new records or some shit like that. And he was like, well, I haven't bought a record since the last record I bought was So by Peter Gabriel. And I think at that point that had come out in 85 or 86 or something like that. And I think I saw an interview again, within the last decade. And the answer was still the same.
Oh, wow. Peter Gabriel?
Since
yeah.
The last record I bought was So by Peter Gabriel. That point was, 25, 30 years, which just goes to show, the music was in him.
Yeah.
He didn't really, he got to a certain point where he didn't seek it out because it was always
part of him, right? He didn't need all these influences and laundry listing, right?
Either that, or he was just completely, bullshitting everyone,
right?
And he didn't want to.
That's possible. You never know.
You never know. But whether that's true or whether it's not true, he really didn't talk about a lot of other musicians or bands. I do remember specifically he did talk about Alan Holdsworth.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was really maybe the one musician or the one guitarist that I remember him specifically really talking up.
Mm-hmm.
And so he really thought the world of him.
Right.
So, he really, I think, but that's, offhand, that's really the only thing I can really remember.
Sure.
Him really talking about Alan Holdsworth and that one Peter Gabriel. Apparently, the last 35 years of his life, he only owned one.
That was the last record he bought, right. That's great.
Yeah, right,
yeah. So, going back to October 6th of this year, did the passing of Eddie Van Halen leave you feeling more or less motivated to play the guitar, shortly after the news?
Honestly, I could say, I don't know. I'm not sure how melodramatic this is or not. This might.
Oh, I gotta hear it.
I could maybe say that the only thing No, that doesn't really sound right. But I will say that his life was incredibly inspirational, and in death, I think he might be more motivational.
Sure. So much of
what I took in from him at a young age, because obviously I went off in a totally different direction as a player. I've never really been one, like, it's a Popeye thing. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. And I never, as much as I worshipped a lot of these players and stuff like that, like, I never really sought out being like a total mirror image,
Right.
It just didn't. There was something about. I mean, first of all, when I got, it's very difficult to, you get in on the ground floor of guitar playing, and your hero is Eddie Van Halen. It's like, holy shit! I mean, that's, it's like, putting a 6-month-old baby at the foot of Everest and say, start fucking walking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
right. Yeah.
I mentally and physically, as far as like muscle memory and stuff, like, I was nowhere near ready to handle Van Halen stuff. And, and we kind of touched on this in the Mega podcast too, is where it's like a lot of stuff that I really cut my teeth on, like right off the bat, was so difficult and so challenging and so beyond my ability at that time, that it was just like, it was all very intimidating. And whereas, some people might take that as a challenge to do that, to me, some weird way, to me, it was a challenge to try something else.
Sure. Right.
Because it was always, in a weird way, me learning how to do other things that I was maybe more ready for at that time kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me, because I always had that desire to be like at that level of an Eddie Van Halen. And it's almost like, there's no perfection in this world, but you chase it in spite of that. You chase it knowing you'll never catch it. Sure. And
yeah, of course.
And that's what keeps you on the path of improvement and betterment. And I'm glad I didn't. Like, holy shit! I mean, like, if I had been, let's just say I was one of those cats that just is a natural and just has that innate ability. Like, I am not a natural. Like, it fucking took me. I'm not even, considering, we live in the city of guys like, Dan Behrens and Mike Willard and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
I can't even, compare to dudes like that. But I definitely feel like I've gotten to, a certain level of competency, which, which I am proud of, because I know that it took a long time, and it took a lot of hard work and a lot of me just really beating up on myself. I guess my whole thing was, if I ever admit that I'm good enough, then I never will be.
Right.
So I've done a really good job of convincing myself I'm just complete dog shit. And in that really, really unhealthy mindset, I've really just mentally abused myself into improvement, And so, I can't even, if I had gotten in on Van Halen 1 and I was like this wonderkind, and within 6 months or a year I was already able to bang out Eruption, holy fuck, where do you go from there? Like, I don't know where I would have gone from there.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm kind of...
You have to top yourself at that point.
Ability, but, like, I'm kind of glad that I really had to suffer for everything that I've been able to accomplish. And as such, I really, really do appreciate, whatever ability I have. Now, granted, it's all in the ear of the beholder. Someone might think I'm a good guitarist, and someone else might think I'm complete horseshit.
Right.
Right. But I definitely.
But you put in the work.
I could say if I had shown, little 12-year-old Greg DiPasquale what 38-year-old Greg DiPasquale could do on guitar, 12-year-old me would have puked and shit his pants.
Sure. Yep. That's great. Good way to put it.
I think lost the plot of the question a long time ago, but
no, you definitely didn't. You definitely didn't.
The answer's in there somewhere.
The answer is you were more motivated to play guitar because Eddie Van Halen would have wanted you to continue playing guitar.
That's right. It was a death question. That's right. It was, and honestly, to touch back on that, to circle back around, like, so much of what I attempted to do by Van Halen was so long ago in my path or my journey of being a guitarist or being a musician. And like I said, I didn't really have the ability to even comprehend it. What is cool now is it kind of motivated me, because he's no longer with us, to now that I do have, I don't think this is being, braggadocious or cocky or whatever, but I'm a much better guitarist now than I was in 1993.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's putting it lightly, right?
Yeah, because of that, like, it really has kind of inspired me to, like, really go back and be like, well, I haven't really even attempted this stuff, since 95 or 96, and I've come a long way since then. So it's been kind of got me going back and taking a second crack at his stuff with more ability to understand or comprehend or have an idea of what he was actually trying to do, and that's been a lot of fun. It's been very motivational, So again, yeah, his life was inspiring and his death was motivating. I don't really know that that's any different. It's probably just a different way of saying the same thing, but it definitely, it was, it pushed me again,
Right. Awesome. Cool. Last but not least, tell your favorite personal story that in some way involves the music of Eddie Van Halen.
If anyone heard the last podcast and the story of, when I first heard Van Halen 1 and specifically Eruption, I could say that when I walked out of that hotel room after that, that first step was the first step into the rest of my life. And I don't really know if anything else I've encountered with Van Halen could possibly be more pivotal or more important than that?
Sure.
You know?
That makes sense.
I walked into a room at 11 years old. You know? I walked out an hour later, and all of a sudden I had a thought in my brain that I had never had before.
Yep.
And that thought took me around the country a bunch of times and, you know, put me in debt. And
Well, yeah, I can relate on both.
and totally killed any chance of interest in educational pursuits.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really give Van Halen's music or to just one moment when it was really responsible for shaping a vast majority of my life. Again, whether it's you or, you know, people I've been in bands with or people I work with, I could pin it all back to Van Halen. You know? And that's fucking ginormous.
Right.
One moment like that, the ripple of that, you know, it's like some butterfly effect shit, you know?
Yeah, no, totally is. Yep.
You know, it's really tough to talk about without sounding so over dramatic. But when it comes to
this is worthy of that.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to these moments in life that really change your whole course of action and direction, that's drama. That's dramatic.
It's the best kind.
You know? Yeah. You know, I mean, that's ginormous. You know, and I guess, you know, unfortunately, and this is kind of funny, it's weird, you know, I wish I could say I had a moment where I was able to witness it live, and I just never was able to. You know, it just never, you know, by the time I was old enough, I guess that would probably be the thing I would say that would be the biggest moment, is if I ever saw them live, you know, playing.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I was old enough to come and go as I pleased, I mean, they had already kind of started their relative uninvolvement, you know, in everything.
Right.
You know, and even when they, you know, had that comeback album with Dave, you know, 8 years ago, I just, for whatever reason, I missed the gig when they came around here, and it's unfortunate, but, you know, in, you know, true fashion for someone as unique as Eddie Van Halen, my Eddie Van Halen live story is as unique. I feel like I never saw him play guitar live, but I did see him play softball live at a Jim Kelly charity softball game.
Yeah, sure.
Which is fairly interesting. You know, I would definitely trade that memory to say I saw him in concert, but at least I could say the one time I saw Eddie Van Halen live and in person, he was fucking playing softball, which is weird. But yeah, he was the shit, man. He was the shit. And it's yeah, this one, you know, again, you know, this one hurt for sure, man.
Yep.
Hurt,
yep.
You know, but
yeah, this was different
luckily,
for a lot of people.
He
right.
gave us a lifetime of music to enjoy, to inspire, and to really just live by. You know.
Yeah, that's another thing that Sammy said. He said, "Thank God we still have the music."
Yeah, he doesn't. The music doesn't go away. It's unfortunate and it's sad that he's done making music. We'll never ever hear.
Right, the next Van Halen riff or solo or song.
Again. You know, we're lucky that we were able to live in his lifetime.
Yep. We got to
we were
exist
lucky
at the
to
same time as Eddie Van Halen.
Those records as they were coming out. And we're lucky to have just shared oxygen with greatness like that.
That's right.
I mean, it's
Yep.
his legacy, and that ripple will be felt forever and ever and ever. And it's for a couple days there, it was, very, very weird listening to Van Halen. Van Halen is a band and wrote music that never, ever made me feel sad. And for a couple days, I listened to Van Halen and it made me sad.
Right. First time for everything.
It was really fucking weird. But, after a couple days, that went away. And it's back to making me smile again. Because we have this. And we will have this forever. Van Halen records obviously outlived Eddie, and they're going to outlive all of us. They are immortal. And I guess that's really what we're all after, isn't it? Immortality in some way as musicians. That's why we record stuff. To have a snapshot of well, let's say that's not why, but that's why records are great. They're snapshots of a period in our life.
Yeah. Yeah,
those
definitely.
Periods live forever. So that's a little slice of immortality for everyone.
Right.
Eddie maybe has a little bit of a bigger slice than the rest of us, but deservedly so.
Sure thing. That was beautiful, Greg.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, that was pretty much perfect. No, it was great having you on again. It's been a while, and this was pretty cool to do again, despite the circumstances.
Well, if there was ever a reason to
rehash
off the old format, this was the one.
Right on.
Cradle of fucking civilization.
It's true. All right. Well, unless you have anything to add, I am done, and I bid you good night.
You as well, sir. Enjoy those California sunshines.
Oh, indeedy, sir. All right. I will talk to you soon. Thank you again.
Catch you later, man. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.